evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Derek Wandera, taking you on the hot seat tonight on Friday, the 18th of October, 2024. It's the Friday where we have a panel of journalists and pundits to discuss huge topics of the week. This week is one that you would call an action-packed one. Just we had the fired ED of KCCA, Dorcas Chisaka, and two top officials remanded in Luzira up to 4th of November. And we have, so they are going to be in prison for 2 weeks there. We have so many other things that are happening. But today I have an able panel of 4. One is going to be on phone. And I want to introduce to you my panelists tonight. I have Joseph Sabiti, senior journalist, communication.
Former journalist.
Former journalist.
Former journalist.
Once a journalist, always a journalist, my brother. What? I know why you are saying that, because you want to take sides. You don't have senior journalist. I have Isaac Kayonde from Gomba. He's a political analyst. I have
Gomba's finest.
Gomba's finest. Gomba's only export from that side. And then I have Frank, who is also a regular on this show. Frank Mujimba, you are very welcome. On the call, I guess that my producer can get him, is Joel Mukisa. I have been saying Joel Mukisa is the Ugandan Kenyan. I have Joseph here, who is Ugandan Kenyan, but also he is Congolese. And then Frank is he's very Ugandan. He's an adult. He says he's an adult. Yes. and then the only Gomba man we have on the show, who is Isaac Kayonde. Why I'm introducing to you these very big panelists, because the topic we're going to handle is a cross-border, it's a geopolitical matter, and we are going to be handling politics and the law in Godfrey Rigathi Gachagua, the former, as we speak now, Deputy President of Kenya, was impeached, I think last evening?
Yes,
was impeached last evening. And we want to delve into this matter. Joel, can you hear me? Joel Mukisa is a human rights lawyer, and he's also a regular on this show and an analyst. Joel, can you hear me?
Yes, Derek, I can hear you. Good evening, Derek, and good evening, our viewers.
So, Joel, yes, I want to begin with you, my brother. You are in Makerere and you can't make it to the studio, but I want to begin with you. Can you bring us to speed on what's happening in Kenya on Gachagua, how it is now, and where it's heading?
Thank you so much, Derek, and good evening to viewers. Good evening to my brother Joseph Sabiti, who lost the election in 2022, but he has joined us on board.
He lost an election in 2022.
These were Odinga fans in 2022 who have since seen the light. So, your question, Derek, is to put context where we are right now.
Yes.
Last week, the National Assembly in Kenya got a motion led by the Honorable Mutuse of Kibwete West, saying that he had reasons as to why the Honorable Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua, who was the Deputy President in Kenya, should be impeached. The Honorable, just for context and background on the politics surrounding the impeachment motion, that Honorable Mutuse is a member of Mandela Chap Chap. He's a Kamba by tribe. You know Kenya's ethnic arithmetic. He's a Kamba by tribe. And also, Mandela Chap is an affiliate party within the Kenya Kwanza regime. And also his party leader is a cabinet secretary in Uganda. They call him Minister of Labor. So they are that big in the Kenya Kwanza regime. So he brought up this motion. It was not brought by the UDA party, where the Honorable Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua is a deputy party leader. The Honorable Rigathi Gachagua is a deputy party leader, so it was brought by Mandela Chap Chap. So when the motion was brought up, it had 11 counts. The 11 counts were read in the National Assembly. for context to our listeners, the National Assembly in Kenya, they have a bicameral system. A bicameral system means you have both a National Assembly, which is called the lower parliament, and upper parliament. So they have the upper parliament for them, which would be the Senate.
Yes.
So when an impeachment motion is brought through first the National Assembly. It is similar to the U.S., where you have in Kenya the National Assembly. In the U.S., you say House of Representatives. So after being debated, and if it is second, which it was overwhelmingly by about 260 something MPs, it was seconded overwhelmingly. It is then brought to the Senate, and about 2 days ago, it was indeed brought to the Senate. When it's brought to the Senate, the Constitution of Kenya says the Senate then sits as a trial chamber, and being a trial chamber, it has quasi-judicial powers, and that is why for those who are following, you are seeing the Speaker of Senate, Amason Jefferson Kingi, giving rulings akin to those given by usually judicial officers. So yesterday, they had 2 days of presenting evidence and cross-examination. So the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua had time to present his case first in the National Assembly, where he spoke. And because the National Assembly is not court, he was not cross-examined. So he had the opportunity, he was supposed to get the opportunity to be cross-examined in Senate. When it reached his time to be cross-examined, the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua, who was the Deputy President, was not in, and he was able to speak and was having chest pains up to date. He's in current hospital. And the Senate voted overwhelmingly to continue, despite the fact that he was not around to present his case, to continue with the impeachment trial, and ruled against him in his favor with 5 out of 11 counts being seconded by an overwhelming majority of Senate. Senate has 67 senators in Kenya, and they have 47 counties. So the other 20 come up in what we call nominated senators. Those are nominated by political parties given their numerical strength in the Senate. So coming to the politics of it, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, it is very evident, fell out with his deputy.
Okay, before you even come to the political bit of it, you say what are some of the issues that led to the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua's impeachment? What were the charges, the 11 charges? Could you mention them?
The 11 charges, some of them included corruption, because the Honorable Mutuse claimed that he had gotten wealthy in ways that were not commensurate to his salary as a deputy president. The other was disunity, and that was against the National Integration Act, where he kept speaking to sentiments of the shareholder government, and people have shares, and those who had shares was a euphemism for those who overwhelmingly voted to bring this Kenya Kwanza administration into power. The other issue was the undermining of the judge of judicial independence, because remember the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua had some abrasive remarks against the Honorable Justice Esther Maina over the jobs that had been the KRA jobs, which were about 1,300, and over 700 jobs had gone to only two nationalities within Kenya, and most of them belong either to the Kalenjin or the Kikuyu part where the Honorable Rigathi comes from. So that brought him in the crosshairs of the Honorable Mutuse, and the Honorable Mutuse brought up. I don't remember the other 11 off my head, but those are the major ones, because even the ones against the Senate were about 5.
Great. I want to keep you there, Joel. If you'll give us a few minutes. I know you're at school. You're going for lectures, but I want to bring in Joseph here. Joseph Sabiti, who has also been following this. You tell me he has now been married into the Ruto family. I have known him for being a Raila Odinga person, but I want to bring him in to give us the political innuendos that are at play, how the Honorable William Ruto breaks up with his very good friend, for sure, that we've seen, and now they are such nemesis, and what brings that, what are the politics at play between William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua?
Well, allow me to say hello to my young brother Joel. when the 2022 elections were taking shape, we told him that Baba was the man for the job, and they didn't listen. And about 760 days on the job, Baba had to send 4 able men into the cabinet and the Attorney General in order to rescue the Kenya Kwanza the Kenya Kwisha administration. So all hail Raila Odinga. Is always right. He has guided us that when he takes a decision, it's the right decision. But I think that the whole thing is a political process clothed with a lot of legal, should I say, appetizers. The lawyers are simply the bridesmaids for the political process. I strongly believe that when you go back to the process of the search for a running mate for William Ruto, he wanted a man for the job, and that job was dealing with President Uhuru Kenyatta and decimating Raila Odinga in the mountain region, in the house of Mumbi. And Professor Kithure Kindiki was the polished man, a professor of law who was in the academia, who had served as senator for Tharaka-Nithi, who had served as majority leader in the Senate, who had served as the deputy speaker of the Senate. He was, and previously he had represented William Samoei Ruto at the ICC. So clearly, if you look at the CV, the conventional way, he was the man for the job. But the job that was required at that point was not to be done by a polished man. You needed someone who is dirty, who would go brutal. And so
also money played
that's just one part of it. There were many other people with money.
Yes. Okay.
But there was a man who had worked as a PA to Uhuru Kenyatta, and he had been close to the family of Muzai Jomo, and he didn't mind being used to decimate that family. When you see when the Kenyatta family was being humiliated, and you listen to the words that Rigathi Gachagua said, for a family that you served as a PA, that there was some decorum that was expected. So Rigathi was ready. His sword knew no connections, knew no brotherhood, knew no kinsmen and kinswomen, was cross-cutting, and he was the man for the job, for the election job. But also he had the things now coming out about his wealth. He had projected financial muscles, and William Ruto needed the recklessness and the financial temper to take on the system at that time. So I strongly believe that the moment William Samoei Ruto got elected as president, and then Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua's role in the Kenya Kwanza administration in the Kenya Kwanza administration had ended, and if there's anything he learned, is that the day the Gen Zs overran the National Assembly and overran so many strategic installations in the seat in the country, including the seat of the capital, then I think he realized that if I use Isaac Kayondwe to slaughter someone, it's a matter of time before that sword turns towards me. So unlike Uhuru Kenyatta, who allowed William Ruto to play under his watch, William is the son of a peasant. He's a chicken seller. He sold chicken to the top, so he's not going to allow some entitled guy from the mountain to get him off. But also too, when he got Raila Odinga through his lieutenants into the government, and then Rigathi Gachagua's role in the government, I think substantially ended. But also, the man developed a very strange level of impunity. He wanted to cast the impression that he was jointly elected with William Ruto. He was also, the people cast for the vote for the president. Yes, he was on the ticket, but the president who was elected was not Rigathi Gachagua. So I think it was about time that Ruto cleaned his house. If for example, I think that by the time the Johos were coming into cabinet, that government had gone. Yeah. So you need now. Imagine counting on your biggest political nemesis to stabilize your government. Your marriage is falling, and you have to bring your wife's ex to help in other aspects. It's a strange. So I think that I don't know if anybody didn't see it coming, but Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki was deputy president in waiting for a very long time, including in the assignments executed at the Interior Ministry. It was clear that the future would look that direction. The only thing I thought was that Rigiji would be smart enough to take a bow and live to fight in 2027, because impeachment means His political career has been put in a dustbin and thrown in Chitezi. I don't know where we throw garbage now. We still use Chitezi. Yeah, so it's about winding your political career and throwing it in Chitezi, which was quite not a smart move. The lawyers might convince you and speak a lot of English. In the end, we have missed a showdown in 2027.
Let's go for a quick commercial break, and when we return, I'll bring in Frank Mujimba and Isaac Kayonde to delve onto this topic even more. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. My name is Derek Wandera, still taking you on the hot seat. I have an able panel in studio. Joseph Sabiti from Kenya and stays in Uganda and works in Uganda. Frank Mujimba is a Ugandan.
The other day I was from Congo.
And he's also a Congolese, by the way. He's also a Congolese. And I have Isaac Kayonde from Gomba. He's not from anywhere but here. Yeah. And then I have another man who is Kenyan, and William Ruto's I was going to say something. From Kenya and Uganda, Joel Mukisa in Makerere. Right now, he is joining us on this show on his phone. But I want to bring in Isaac Kayonde right here.
Yes.
Isaac Kayonde, you were just trying to analyze for us something very interesting during the break. Please,
so for me, it's... good evening, viewers, anyway. But I'm looking at this election and... I mean, this process that Gachagua has gone through. And for me, again, that's when I said democracy, which is not founded in ideology, fails at all times. That you see, democracy shouldn't just be a process. The results should speak to that process. And what the humiliation that Gachagua has gone through was not legal. Anybody who watched the Senate proceedings definitely knew that this was more political than anything else. Now, if I asked anybody what Gachagua did to Ruto, nobody can place a finger on it or tell you, oh, he did this, he abused him, or anything. If anything, it is just purely a thing of the 48 laws of power. You simply, rule number one, never outshine the master. Now, when these protests happened and Gachagua went on to go and discuss, oh, the government is doing this, abducting and all that, it was a bit of a, trying to cleanse yourself, say you are holier than holier than the bishop. I mean, the Pope. The Pope.
The bishops are
now,
not very holy.
When I look at voting, what happened in the Senate, Gachagua didn't need even to defend himself because it was evident. It was evident in the submission of that Mutuse man. He couldn't defend anything that he had brought. Now, when the vote happened, there were 11 counts which were brought. The 11 counts of corruption, all of them were knocked down by Gachagua, and they were baseless at that point. The brilliance of the Ruto team was the fact that they brought so many charges, and there were those which were bordering the thin line. Yes. But quickly, let me go through the ones which there were five counts that he was found guilty that caused the impeachment. But let's go through them quickly. Ground one was gross violation of Article 10 and whatever Article 147 has read through that. The ayes had it at 53, the nays 13. Ground two was gross violation of articles of the Constitution by undermining the president and the cabinet and effective discharge of the national government. Right? Then the ayes had 28, the nays had 39. So there was no proof whatsoever that he had undermined the president. They brought ground three, gross violation of Article 6, the fourth schedule of the Constitution by undermining devolution. How did he undermine devolution? They brought their evidence. 45 said no chance. 19 said yes. 45, he won on that ground. Ground four, gross violation of the Constitution on the institutional decisional independence of judges. Right? He had insulted, I don't know whether insulted or he had allegedly insulted a judge. That one, the ayes had it. So he lost that one. Ground five, gross violation of the Constitution or the fidelity of oath. Yeah. That one, the ayes had it because of the so-called secrecy thing where he came and gave a speech about something that had been said to him in confidence by the national security. Serious reason to believe, the sixth ground was serious reason to believe that the deputy had committed crimes under the National Cohesion and Integration Act. That was, the ayes had it at 48, the nays had 18. That was because he was dividing them along ethnic mount. So he lost that one. Serious reason to believe that the deputy had committed gross economic crimes under Section 45. Proceeds of crime and anti-money laundering. Here, this is the big question about corruption, and he won it. The nays had 53, the ayes had only 13. There were no grounds whatsoever to impeach him over corruption. Ground 8, serious reason to believe that the deputy has committed crimes continuously misleading the members of the public through false, malicious, decisive provisions of the penal code, leadership and integrity. The ayes had 27, the nays 40, because he hadn't, there was nothing there. Gross misconduct that is incompatible with the high calling, that was ground 9. Gross misconduct as and dignified status. This is the one of decorum of our man. He has no decorum. The ayes had it, the nays had. So, ground 10, gross misconduct by openly, publicly insubordinating the president, who is the head of the state. Nothing. The nays had it at 44. Ground 11, gross misconduct and persistent bullying of the state and public. Of course, that was not true. Nays have it. The thing is this. Every ground that they found him guilty of was flimsy. Now,
but you know that they only needed one ground.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. But the grounds which really held water, which you thought were the big ones, the corruption, the tribal things and everything, all of them he passed by all intents and purposes. So for me, it's like one of his supporters in the Senate came out after, I think, a man from Busia, your place there, something like that. Anyway, I'm terrible.
Senator Umtata. Busia, yes.
Never.
Okia Umtata.
Came out and said, look, it was not because we were defending the vice president, not because we knew, not because we didn't know that we would lose, but because we simply knew that this decision was made long time ago. This was simply a process. Premeditated. It had to happen like this and everything that happened. So for me, his resignation, the wisdom in not resigning was that he was able to expose his detractors to the extent that, look, you have charged me with all these things, but they're false. So he defended himself ably. But because the decision had already been made that he
could not change anything at that point. And I want to bring in
the fact that quickly, and the fact that the High Court has made a decision this evening, this afternoon, about the way the process is going and putting a stop to it. It gives us gives hope to Gachagua that
I brought it up in the group.
I don't think
they told me to
wake up, go and pee, and then go back to sleep.
I want to bring in
worst case, if they don't implement the court order, at least they might cancel his impeachment and he'll come in 2027. He may not go back into the...
So Professor Makao Mutua this evening wrote about the concept of judicial restraint. And it's a doctrine in law that demands that the judiciary stays away from political processes unless they affect fundamentals of the Constitution. And he says he does not blame us who have not read it, but also too, Isaac, that order was overtaken by events.
Let me bring in Frank before you tell Isaac, because I have Joel on call. He told me that I should go and pee and then go back and sleep when I said there seems to be some light of day and a silver lining on the clouds of the Honorable Gachagua. Frank, what do you make of all this, the impeachment process, but also the premeditation that is underneath everything that's happening? Is this portraying any democratic growth in Kenya? And how do Ugandans view this, especially the leaders?
Thank you, Wandera. First of all, I would want to first mention that the politics in Kenya is really interesting to watch from a distance. It is really interesting. Of course, not that bit where they start slaughtering themselves or killing themselves or spilling blood, but the way they play their politics, the way politicians move from maybe one alliance to the other. So it is really interesting to follow. But one important thing that I would want to mention also is the kind of sophistication that President William Ruto used to take out Rigathi Gachagua. I will compare this to something that was used by the former president of China, of the Communist Party, Mao Zedong, who ruled China between 1927 and between 1949 up to 1976. That was 27 years. So during this period of time, he had a second in command, and at the height of implementation of his infamous policies, and one of these policies was called the Great Leap Forward, that had seen about 14 million people die of hunger. So the second in command at one time tried to challenge him in one of the what you would call the caucus meetings of the party, but Mao Zedong did not retaliate immediately. He took time. It took about 10 years, but finally he got his man and he really punished him. So that kind of sophistication that William Ruto used a member of parliament who is first of all a Kamba, what you would call a non-prominent tribe in Kenya. He did not use members of parliament like Ndidi Nyoro, who has been at loggerheads with Rigathi Gachagua, or anybody who had been prominent in terms of fighting Rigathi Gachagua. He did not use such a person. He used someone who was not known. You could clearly see yesterday during the cross-examination that actually this person did not know anything about whatever he was presenting, about these grounds that he was presenting. He did not know anything about it, so he was just a carrier. But I would want to mention that yes, for long Ugandans and Ugandan politicians have always used Kenya as a referral for democracy and all that. But I think all that came to a standstill yesterday. I think I've never seen such an unfair trial like what happened to Rigathi Gachagua yesterday. So I think yesterday it was not Rigathi Gachagua on trial, but the institutions of Kenya were really on trial. Because when you look at how everything was done, and even when you look at the tail end of it, impeachment is effected at around 11 p.m. Then early in the morning, of course, Parliament, the National Assembly had already been called to come back on Friday.
Even before the vote.
Before the impeachment had taken place. Before, I think today before 11, Ruto had already forwarded a name to the National Assembly. So you could see that I really don't know what is left of Kenya's institutions. I don't know how serious we're really going to take them. So for me, Kenya, up to yesterday, I'm still in a shock.
Yeah, but
just 1 second.
Yeah, just to add on to that, of course, is the proverbial curse of the deputy president. Like Kenya has never had a deputy president
serve the entire
serve with the sitting president peacefully. Yes. From Kibaki and Odinga in the 60s, came Moi from Kenyatta and Odinga to Moi and Kibaki to Uhuru and Ruto. As in, that curse continues. So Kindiki is
let's go for a quick commercial break, and when we return, we will have Joel to tell us Kindiki is now here, and what this whole thing means for William Ruto. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's always hot in here, off and on air, and my panelists here are so enchanted with this topic. I'm still with Joseph Sabiti, Frank Mujimba, Isaac Kayonde, and I also have Joel Mukisa on the line. Joel Mukisa.
Yes, Derek.
You told me to go and pee and then get back to bed and sleep when I said there looks to be some kind of hope for Gachagua. What does this make for Gachagua? especially when the name of Professor Kindiki is fronted by William Ruto. And what does that mean for the administration of William Ruto for the next 3 years, 2 years, 2.5 years, but also looking at the second term that's going to be in 2017?
2027.
2027, sorry about that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Derek. When I told you to go and pee, it was that you were daydreaming. Like Professor Makao Mtua talked about the doctrine of judiciary strength. You know the Kenyan courts to be excited to wade into matters of this kind. For the first time, you saw them being restrained to the extent that Justice Chacha Mwita and the three-judge panel put in place by the Chief Justice Martha Koome ruled that they will not intervene in the process taking place in the Senate, because the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua had issues as regards public participation, when it took place, how many people participated, and that has been a very central issue in many cases in the Kenyan courts. But the Kenyan courts ruled that they will not intervene, leaving the process purely to the Senate, and saying it's a political process. We can only come in at the end. And maybe now the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua going back to Justice Chacha Mwita this afternoon and saying that, yes, I was not heard or things of that sort, and Justice Chacha Mwita giving those conservatory orders. For context, a conservatory order in law is an order to stay put something, to say, guys, stop, I need to check this process. And whatever
does that
the judge
also mean maintaining the status quo?
Well, there are two orders that have come in today. The one of Justice Chacha Mwita read literally cannot be putting the swearing in of Kindiki on hold, because for it was saying, I am stopping any process after the Gazette notice by Senate. But that had been overtaken by events, because by the time it even came out, the National Assembly had voted unanimously to approve Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki. So there is another court order that came in from the Kerangaro court, by also judge of the High Court. For him, he had explicitly said that I'm stopping anyone from occupying that office until this matter is heard on Thursday by the three-judge bench. So why I say that, it is because this is a purely political process. The president is the executive. He clearly doesn't want to deal with that kind of deputy, but also overwhelmingly have the National Assembly voting for Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki, including members who had previously voted against the impeachment of the Honorable Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua. So that puts you in a dilemma, because the executive, which is a political branch, and also the legislature clearly don't want to do this man. Are you going to use judicial fiat to impose the guy on them? The other question Derek, you asked was regard on who Professor Kithure Kindiki is. You know, the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua feels like he has been fighting for the Kenya Kwanza government. Remember, he was arrested very many times, his money frozen from accounts, his usual story. He's provided the story of when he was taken in a vest, in a pro box to the DCI headquarters by then DCI head, the Mr. Kinoti. So he says he has sacrificed a lot for the Kenya Kwanza government. Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki has been a lawyer. He was a lawyer for Dr. William Samoei Arap Ruto in the ICC in Hague. But most importantly, he was a senator and also a deputy senator in the Senate between 2017 and 2022. When he became deputy senator, and his allegiances were with William Samoei Arap Ruto, Uhuru Kenyatta, the CEO of Jomo, decided to cut his wings by removing him from the position of deputy speaker of the Senate, and remained purely as a senator from Tharaka Nithi. So he has put in the best for Kenya Kwanza, but also around 2022, when the election was taking place, he had vowed to become a governor of Tharaka Nithi County, where he comes from. But President William Ruto promised him that you're going to be my deputy and things and so on. So by the time they chose Gachagua, it was late for him. People had already picked nomination forms for governor, etc. So the wagon had already moved. What does the appointment of Abraham Kithure Kindiki mean? Abraham Kithure Kindiki, when people hear of Kikuyu, they think it's one homogeneous tribe, but there are many communities within the Kikuyu, and usually their name is the Gema Association, which means Kikuyu, Embu, and Meru Association. So Professor Abraham Kithure Kindiki comes from the eastern side of the mountain. The eastern side of the mountain does not have as many numbers as the western side from where Rigathi Gachagua comes from. It would surprise you, Derek, but in the whole of Kenya, President William Samoei Arap Ruto was most voted in Nyeri, where Rigathi Gachagua comes from, not even from Uasin Gishu. The advantage that Kikuyus have in Kenyan politics is that they vote as a bloc, and their counties usually are for them alone, or their communities that are in that game association, unlike other communities, because you find a county like Nakuru, it is cosmopolitan. It may be in the Kalenjin area, but it is cosmopolitan. It has many other tribes. Some counties you share with the Luya, others you share with the Luo, so things of that sort. So that is why the Kikuyu vote is very important for anyone who comes to be president of Kenya. So what is William Ruto specifically doing when he's dealing with the mountain? This way, Joseph Sabiti's man is now in bromance with us in government, so you don't be surprised when they bring a lower running man in the year of our Lord 2027. But because to do that, you need to split the mountain in half. You do that only by pitching the east against the west. So even right now, the biggest critics, people who are against the Gachagua impeachment, cannot speak in very unequivocal terms about dangerously against Kithure Kindiki, because you're pitting the east against the west. Although where Kithure Kindiki comes from, the numbers are not so big that it would be a part of the region which you want to work with, going with in 2027. Kithure Kindiki brings you suaveness, he brings you calmness, he brings you demeanor, all things that back in the Honorable Geoffrey Rigathi Gachagua. Definitely, Kithure is not a mobilizer. He cannot do the things that Rigathi Gachagua was doing. But now maybe you have Joho, maybe now you have the Honorable Wycliffe Oparanya, who those guys of the Joseph Sabiti streak that have just joined government. You have John Badi, so maybe they'll replace Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. That's where I stand.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Joel. There. Thank you for that deep analysis. I want to bring in Joseph here because the people of Mulima, Mulima meaning mountains, the people of the mountains have been speaking, and we have seen the Honorable Gachagua in the mountains speaking. And the people were waving their hands in retaliation. And this is a very, very deep place, heavily populated, but also heavily politicized. Does this impeachment then change numbers in terms of when you look at the win that William Samoei Ruto got in the last election? Does this impeachment then affect his numbers in one way or the other come 2027?
You need to take a keen look at the 2022 numbers. Practically, Raila Odinga lost that election in Bungoma, the home of Moses Masika Wetangula. The 200,000 literally is because of the votes he lost in what used to be his stronghold, because their son went away, Moses Wetangula, and he delivered. Yes, he delivered Bungoma in totality. And that tilted the figures. But make no mistake, William Samoei Ruto, I think, has lived all his life to be president. And it's not going to be one Rigathi Gachagua to stop him from being president.
That's not the language you were speaking a few years ago.
No, I am just saying.
How it has changed.
No, yeah, I mean. I have. I am saying I have never.
You have really shifted.
No, my Kenyan. No. My view. But listen to me. My view on William Ruto has been consistent. He's ruthless in pursuit of his interests.
Yeah.
And that has been my view. That, you see, he's not going to stand by and watch one Rigathi. He's not Uhuru Kenyatta, who will sit and allow you to run around on top of cars and abuse him and humiliate him and call out his government. You will not see that. First, he has taken out Rigathi. Secondly, he has brought in Kithure Kindiki. That creates a vacancy in the interior ministry, and the side of the mountain, most likely Nyeri County, will most likely get that cabinet slot, and that slot will be given to a brutal mobilizer, somebody with similar characteristics like Rigathi Gachagua. In terms of the numbers, the walking in of Raila Odinga has thrown the Kenyan dynamics wide open.
Absolutely.
And Ali Hassan Joho, in the ODM, we used to call him the Sultan of the Coast. To mean that he was the king of the coast. So if you have the Sultan Joho and Amason Kingi, and Aisha Jumwa in one basket, and then you have the Raila Odinga working with William Ruto. That's if he wins the AU seat. And so that means you'll have John Mbadi, you'll have Gladys Wanga, you'll most likely have Governor James Orengo, you'll have Professor Anyang' Nyong'o on one side mobilizing Nyanza. And then you have the undisputed king of Western, that is Wycliffe Ambessa Oparanya, in your cabinet now. So the numbers, if you work the numbers between coast, the Western Kenya, and Nyanza, and all those numbers combined, and make no mistake, the Nyanza, the Luo nation votes with Raila Odinga. Today, tomorrow, yesterday, in the past, in the future, they will vote with Raila Odinga as long as he's still breathing, even if he's on life support and they say he has coughed and said vote William Ruto.
Let's have a commercial break, and when we return, I'll be asking Frank Mujimba to tell us what Raila Odinga means in this whole equation.
KFM's Hot Seat. It's hot, it's live, provocative, and digs deep into the issues. It's KFM's Hot Seat.
For me,
KFM, back to you on the hot seat. My name is Derek Wandera. I'm taking you for the hot seat this evening. I have Joseph Sabit, I have Frank Mujimba, I have Isaac Kayonde, and I have Joel Mukisa on the line. I am going to go to Frank Mujimba. We have about less than 10 minutes to go, so I'm going to make sure you make it as succinct as possible. What does this whole mess in Kenya, so to say, where is the place of Raila Odinga in this whole mess of Kenya? Because we know he commands a very huge following in Kenya. What does it look like as 2027 elections shape up?
First of all, Wandera, Raila Odinga is already in alliance with William Ruto, because he's still chasing that position.
Thanks for adding the word because.
Yes.
Yes.
At the African Union. So the thing is, I don't think he can really change much, but maybe if he fails to get the position. But as long as he gets the position, then I think there is no way he can turn back and turn against Ruto. If he fails and turns back, then there could be possibility of having a coalition with Rigathi Gachagua and maybe taking out William Ruto, but which is a bit difficult. I think that all points favor him. But also something that I really wanted to mention is about Rigathi Gachagua. Yes, I think he might not. Because now he's impeached, that means he cannot be able to. If it is effective, if it is not challenged by court, then that means he cannot be able to stand, not after 10 years. So that simply means that all he can do maybe is to become a kingmaker in that area where he comes from, fronting someone, and then you make sure that you support. Because it is also said that I think he contributed significantly towards the building of William Ruto and coming into presidency. So I think he could go back and actually do the same. But this is also what I wanted to say. I don't think that during the time of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, when they were at loggerheads, I don't think that Uhuru Kenyatta just sat down and left Ruto. But I think, yes, Ruto had what you would call an alliance with Ruto had an alliance with Uhuru Kenyatta, but William Ruto had his political party, and I think he also had representatives in the Senate. So during that time, you find that even if Uhuru Kenyatta wanted to impeach him, it was impossible, because I think he had the numbers that could defeat such an impeachment at Senate. So I think that if anybody maybe is to become a vice president, and I'm not so sure about the new deputy president now, Kindiki. I think that what you need to do in Kenyan politics is to make sure that you, first of all, you have a political party. You don't get into the political party of the person who is the president. You have your political party, and then you also have representation or membership in Senate, so that if such a thing comes up, then you can be able to fight it at that level. But also, I think one of the things that is causing Rigathi Gachagua problems, I don't know if Kindiki will be able to hold back, I think he had, I don't know what I can term it as. You remember the time when
as you sum
yes,
it up.
Yes, when Ruto was having a press conference, I think at their state house, then also Rigathi Gachagua is having a parallel press conference somewhere, and he is trying to say things which you would think that are confidential. He's trying to pin Haj Nuruddin. So I think those are things that could, if like what we have here is a vice president, yes, you are a principal assistant to the president, you have to carry on the word of the president, whatever the president implements, not you taking your own direction.
Isaac,
yes.
just to sum it up.
Yeah, to sum it up, really, the Kenyan something that people have overlooked is the influence of Raila Odinga in Gachagua's problems. Odinga and Ruto have had a relationship before. They have worked together. He has, run his campaign in 2007, and you see that Ruto and Odinga didn't have so much issue, but Gachagua and Odinga were really like oil and water. They didn't mix. Gachagua kept attacking him. Now with the protests that came on board, and Ruto reaching out to Odinga to save him, and in many cases people may not look at it like that, but you can't have reorganizing the government. You give the treasury to Odinga's person. You give the mineral and water, the mineral sector to Odinga's guy. The fourth guy was the cooperatives
and the Attorney General. Now, look here. The Attorney General is in charge of the law. The Treasury, is running the money. The minerals is bringing in the money. As in, people are looking at it and saying Raila Odinga's stronghold on the Kenyan government seems to be something that doesn't go away. He did it with Uhuru, and he did it with he's doing it now with Ruto. And Raila could have saved Gachagua by saying, ODM, let's go. Kalonzo Musyoka tried to do it with Wiper Party, but really his influence was cartoonish. So for me, it's a thing
cartoonish to mean small.
Yeah. So for me, to undermine the influence of Raila Odinga in Gachagua's problems is also to really not care, but about the issue. But I see it, and I think for me also Gachagua's biggest problem was a lack of a constituency. You see, like influence. When you have like a Raila Odinga, he comes with a whole entire Luo nation. You have people like Ruto coming with the entire Kalenjin nation.
That's actually not true.
Okay,
the numbers are not working for him.
The numbers are not
including in Western Kishu. Yes.
No, the thing is, once you see the Mount Kenya region, it's a thing of Gachagua is not the kingpin. He's not the guy who says the entire mountain should move. There are people like Moses Kuria. There are people like
William Kabogo, Uhuru Kenyatta.
Yes, Uhuru Kenyatta. And those people are more influential than him. So for him, what he did is that he went out to the Mount Kenya to try and galvanize and have a constituency which he can command. Now, his inability to do that will be tested as far as he can go for this impeachment.
Yes, Isaac, thank you very much. I'm going to bring you in, Joseph, to wrap it up in 1 minute as we close.
All right, two things. I was saying off air that Isaac needs to find a room with Ambassador Edith Sempala and Shamuto. and they talk.
Because they are honest.
They belong to a certain generation. But here is two things. One, Raila Odingaism is a concept that must be studied in Kenyan politics. At the height of Moi's presidency, he went for a handshake with KANU. He became Secretary General of KANU. When in 2007, he went into a handshake with William Mwai Kibaki. He became Prime Minister. He went into a handshake with Uhuru Kenyatta. He stayed out of government but deep inside. And then with Ruto now, he has sent five trusted lieutenants in there. When you sit in your cabinet and you're discussing their future, Raila Odinga is all over the room watching you. So, Isaac, you're right, you can't write him off. But two, the concept of the curse of the deputy or vice presidents in Kenya, there are people who got it right. Mzee Mudi Awori understood his assignment. He was as lame as nobody. He worked successfully with Kibaki. Moi under Jomo Kenyatta. Actually, ministers would do whatever they want, would politically pee on him. He was humble like nothing until he got the presidency. Mwai Kibaki was vice president, by the way, but so humble.
Yes.
So humble that by the time he was ready to take on his master, that is when he went out of it. The cocky ones.
The same with William.
Yeah, the cocky ones, including Professor George Saitoti, the Jaramogi Odinga, they couldn't last. The Robert Karanjas couldn't last long. Yes,
that has been our time for today. Wait for a deeper conversation with a bigger panel.
But
next week.
I must also defend myself.
Very good weekend.
I am worth the politics. It's just Ugandans are not used to politicians who know English.
Have a good evening.
I have been
and good weekend.